I'm Clemens, and with me is my colleague Kilian, and
Hi.
we welcome you here out of beautiful Switzerland in Ticino, in the southern part of Switzerland. What a stunning view. We are here at the Verzasca Dam. It's actually a very famous location as part of the James Bond Golden Eye movie was shot here in 1995. But that's not all about it. So Kilian, tell us a bit about what's happening these days here.
Exactly. So while you follow us around, I mean, as Clemens said, James Bond, the guys were jumping down. You can still jump down, but there are even more crazy people who climb it up. And if you look down here, you will see how they do it and where they do it. They go right from the bottom, 220 meters below us, all the way up to the top on a 180-meter route in a double competition, Red Bull Dual Ascent, where two teams compete against each other on a multi-pitch climb. And what's so special about that event, and why are we here?
And that's actually a good question, Kilian, right? Why is Hilti here at that event? We actually the partner here for all the tools and all the anchors to make sure that actually the athletes can perform under the best conditions. Kilian, I mean, what do you believe? How do they feel when they are down there?
Yeah, I mean, I was down there earlier and I was looking down as well. And it's really an insane, stunning view up there. And imagine you have to climb up and to grab that holds, and you really want to feel safe while doing that, and also feeling comfortable pushing sporty boundaries. And how do we do that, and why do we do that? One of the essential parts are these quick draw slings. And that's where the athletes hook their ropes in here climbing up. And how is that hooked to the dam? With Hilti fasteners. And that's really the key, how they hold and how they can feel safe. And that's our part. And this is like a very old structure, right? It was built almost 60 years ago, so the concrete is pretty tough. And to put that in, we need holes in the concrete. So
Exactly.
Clemens, how do we get in?
And there was actually a crew of 6 route setters that were involved here for the last 8 weeks to prepare that route. And as mentioned before, the final is going to happen tomorrow. And as you can imagine, drilling thousands of holes in that old concrete is very demanding for them. I mean, people here really face conditions like being on a job site. It was rainy, it was foggy, there were days with a lot of sunshine. Also today we had very mixed weather, so you can imagine being down there, installing that, you need best performing products that work. And here they actually used, from a tools perspective, our rotaries and impact wrenches on Nuron platform. They work on the same platform, so you can easily exchange the batteries, and they also help to install all of these anchors, as Kilian just showed.
Exactly. And from fastener side, as said, our HUS4-H was used, including the Max capsule, which combines the best of a mechanical and a chemical anchor. And there are also some HST3s in there. And as Clemens said, it's really about installing them safely, easily. And how this is going to be done, we also will look at later during the demo area.
So Kilian, you know, I was meeting a couple of people before, and they also asked me, what are you doing with those anchors after the event? I mean, can anybody come here just to climb?
Yeah, unfortunately not, right? So it's not a public route. You can come here anytime to do bungee jumping, but the route needs to be dismantled. And that's also a very big benefit of the HUS screws, as you can unscrew them after installation multiple times. So, and by this, the route can also be completely removed.
What about any facts about that dam, about that location, apart that it's a huge wall?
Yeah. So, some fact that we did is we want to really sure that the climbers can fully rely on our anchoring. So we came here with our technical support crew and did pull-out tests. What does that mean? We loaded that anchor with 2.5 tons, so 25 kilonewton, which is a typical rating for climbing gear as well. We kept that load there and really made sure that nothing moves on the anchor. And that's quite a high load, right? So 2.5 tons is like a big SUV car, or as we are in beautiful Switzerland, it's equal to 3 Swiss mountain cows producing the delicious cheese we have here.
That sounds delicious, Kilian.
Really delicious.
Yeah, so actually we walk a bit over the dam, and just in a few moments we're also going to meet an athlete who also used to climb here before. So she will also give us some insights on how they feel, what are the specific challenges of being here in the wall performing here.
Exactly. So we will Shauna, one of England's best female climbers, or the best climber actually in England, and then pretty exciting to learn from her what is happening there. Yeah. But Clemens, as you're our tool expert, like give us an insight. I mean, it takes more or less an hour to get to the places where they start drilling and where they were installing. So you cannot go up and down right easily if you forget something, but we have a tool platform, right? What makes that so special for this use case?
Exactly. I mean, you gotta get your equipment prepared before going down, because as you mentioned, it takes an hour to get up and down. So that's quite a hassle to come back. So what they actually do is they take that equipment, go down, and basically do all the installation, right? And since there is no plugs around in that wall, you obviously need a lot of batteries and these high-performing tools. And as mentioned before, the Nuron platform offers that. We have a variety of products working on the same voltage platform. That one is equipped with a lot of safety-relevant features, some of them which we will also see afterwards in the live demo, right? And I think the beauty of our system here, which you're going to see in a second, is that actually you can do that installation with only two tools. You need a rotary hammer, obviously, to drill that holes in this very hard concrete environment that we face here. And the second one is the impact wrench. And here also we have a very intelligent system, the adaptive torque module, that helps also to basically fully load the anchor with a peace of mind.
Yeah, and peace of mind is really essential. And we're already very close to Shauna now. Hi, Shauna. Hey. Nice to meet you. We'll do with the mic like this.
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks. Nice to meet you. So, what we thought to talk about is the Dyno move in climbing.
Yeah.
And maybe you can quickly explain for the audience what the Dyno move actually is.
Of course, yeah. So a dyno is when all of your body parts leave the wall and go back on. And normally you are jumping from a relatively comfortable position and doing a really wild maneuver across the wall or up the wall and then catching again. And that usually ends up catching with your hands, and maybe your feet land too. It's a scary and intimidating style of movement to do close to the ground, let alone hundreds of meters above the ground. So yeah, the fact that these climbers are doing those kinds of moves on this dam is wild and insane.
Shauna, I mean, you're a very experienced climber, but I think even seeing that one is a very special occasion for you, right?
Yeah, for sure. You know, being here, like, this backdrop is phenomenal, right? And then you think about the fact that we're stood on top of a dam. Of course, it seems pretty crazy to put a man-made structure, a man-made route, and then to hold an event, a competition where the world's best climbers go head-to-head. It really is hats off to Red Bull for pulling this thing together and putting on such a spectacle.
What are the specific challenges of climbing in a wall here on the dam? Is there anything specific about it compared to other routes you're going?
Yeah, so for this dam and this event in particular, I say this dam in particular, I've never climbed another dam. This is the only dam I've ever climbed. For this event in particular, it's just a true test of endurance because it's so much climbing. You don't get much rest, and when you are resting, you're having to belay your partner or pull the rope up. It's just constant. And then you've got the exposure element, so the fear that in the back of your head, you can't get away from the fact that, you know, there's hundreds of meters below you and there's all that climbing left to go above you. And then you think about the fact that these athletes are racing. It just kind of keeps piling on the intensity of just what this event is.
How do you when you're in the wall, right? I mean, you really need to rely also on those fastenings in the wall. Is that something that goes through your mind when you're in there, you know, on who installed that, was that safely installed, or is that just kind of out of your mind at that moment?
Well, no, because I know you guys have got it all covered, so I tend not to worry about it. But with you asking those questions, maybe I should worry. I'm totally kidding. No, for me, actually, it doesn't really I don't tend to think about it too much because I have full confidence in the fact that this event is really well managed, really, really well organized, and I really trust the whole team behind. And I think, you know, we've got a really great setup in terms of kind of equipment that's being used, and then the route setters and everybody, you know, there's a lot of safety and time and energy going into the fact that this is a safe event. And it's funny because the question I get asked the most when people know that I climbed on this dam last year is, why would you drill holes into a dam? And it's like, come on guys, they've thought about that, right? It's 17 meters thick at the thinnest part, 25 at its thickest. This thing, isn't going to be impacted by a few bolts and bolts that we very much trust are going to keep us safe.
And I think that's a very good point. So, and I think we get that question fairly often. So I think Locarno, they don't need to worry about that now. The anchors are dismantled, but as you mentioned, right, we're talking about super thick walls, and we are only scratching the surface by basically drilling here a few centimeters into the wall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So basically it's like if you're at home in your walls, you put a nail in, right, for hanging an image or anything on, so there's really no impact on the stability, whatever.
No, exactly. And I think being on the wall and chatting with some people here, we were talking about, does it feel like the bolts are quite spaced apart? Does it feel kind of scary, like you were saying? Do you think about the safety element? And I think for us as climbers, we really trust in the equipment that we use. And that's a question for you guys, not for us, if it's safe or not.
Yeah, and I think we will actually move a bit on to also go over to the demo area because, unfortunately, we can't bring you now down because actually I'm not a climber. He's a bit of a climber, but not enough to go down here.
I went down with the elevator and up with the elevator.
Exactly. So that's why we're going over to the demo area where we prepared you a demo to show kind of the system. And I think also for Shauna, then it's interesting to see how we do that installation. So the next time you're climbing, you can actually then think twice about how that was installed, right? And maybe you can even do it on your own then.
Actually, the best thing about the demo would be so I don't think twice. I know you guys have got it covered and I don't even have to think about it.
That's pretty cool. And maybe while we walk some meters, have there been any questions posted so far that we can take up? No. Okay, so feel free to post questions, put them in, we will answer them then during the demo.
And maybe just in between also some comment, because some people also asked before, in the post before also, where to watch that and where to see that. So the qualification already happened the last days, and actually tomorrow the finals will be. And you can also watch that on Red Bull TV, actually live tomorrow.
And the finals, we've got such a great show lined up. Alberto Hines Lopez, he is the Olympic gold medalist, climbing with his partner, Jenya Kazbakova. And then we have Jerne and Julia Kruder. They are Slovenian siblings, and they will go up against the winner from last year, Alberto, won. So yeah, we've got a little bit of noise coming in here as everything, it's all action right now on top of the dam.
It's live, right? So we are live on the dam.
Here, but that is the generator, just so you can draw all the equipment comes back up, because it's kind of, things are starting to wrap up on top of the dam now. It's been a really busy day. There's been a lot of people trying out multi-pitch climbing for the first time. This event isn't just about the competition, it really kind of encompasses the community of climbing, allowing people to get involved, have their own experience on the dam, and it's a really shared experience. And of course it is all about the finale, but it's great that there's so many different ways that people can get involved, from watching at home to coming and experiencing it for themselves.
And maybe on the competition, so as Shauna said, there are several pitches, right? There's also one pitch that's the so-called Hilti pitch. And you mentioned the entrance for the finale, right? And that it's still a race, and the time they used to come up yesterday was like 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. And that's really very, very fast, right?
Yeah, it's very fast, the timing yesterday. So it was 45 minutes, but we only timed the top 4 pitches. Tomorrow it'll be the full 6. The Hilti pitch is a pitch they started on in the qualification, whereas that's going to be midway up on the finals. The Hilti pitch has got some really tricky sections. Okay. There's some really slippery holes with no friction whatsoever, and that makes for really excellent watching, because the climbers are literally holding on to nothing. It's just totally shiny. And then at the end of the Hilti pitch, or towards the end, there's this quite dynamic dyno that we were talking about earlier. They jump to a hold and they have to then continue that momentum and stick a really good hold, which is one of my favourite moves, because for the climbers that we're going to see in this final, that move isn't necessarily that tricky, but if they mess it up, it's really going to cost them.
Yeah, I heard that you even get like penalty points if you fall down certain meters.
Yeah, so you get penalty points if they fall. They can take those penalties away if they lower all the way back to the start of the pitch. But the crux move, so the hardest move on the Hilti pitch, is really quite high up. So if they do fall on that move, they're either going to have to take that penalty and continue climbing, or lower all the way back down to the start. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the climbers get on.
And I assume also very exhausting, right? And going all the way back up once you fall, and definitely a difficult one.
I mean, the pitch is 30 meters, right? So maybe we can have a look from the perspective. We should see it right now here. So the red ones that you see there, that's the Hilti pitch. So typically put in Hilti red there.
really is hard to gain. It really is hard to gain perspective of just how crazy tall this dam is. The climbing is 180 meters. The dam itself 220, and you can see down there. You can see the Hilti pit is just kind of creeping into view, and that is the fourth pitch up. So third pitch up. So there's a lot of climbing below that still that you can't even quite see from here.
I was down there and looking up is really an insane perspective. So it's really amazing what you guys do in climbing. It's really
Cool. And yeah, we already arrived here at the demo station, and actually a colleague of us, she will join us now, and will show us actually two systems. One is a screw anchor system on the HUS4 Max, and the other one an expansion anchor HST3. Both of those systems were used actually within the wall to mount it. So with me or with us is actually Laura. Laura, welcome. I think the audience is already pretty excited. Also, Shauna is pretty excited to see actually. Because she is also one of the climbers using that, so she's very curious to see how we do the installation of these anchors.
Good. So let's start. One system we showed already is the so-called HUS screw that Laura has now in hands. And this one goes together with a capsule. It has a resin inside, so which is this one. And these two elements together really combine the best of the mechanical anchoring world and the chemical anchoring world. And how do we install that? We have a system that's called Safe Set system, because it's the safest, easiest and fastest way to set anchors. And why does speed matter? I mean, yes, it's a climbing competition, but also imagine how many holes, and it's thousands of holes and anchors that were set to build the route. So also speed matters, especially if you're hanging in the air. You want to get the work done as quickly as possible. You have to get the project finished in time. And that's why we will also show you how it's done in a very fast and safe way. So what we prepared already is we pre-drilled the holes. One of the things that is always critical in anchoring is dust, because there's a kind of friction. Now imagine putting a sticker on a dusty desert. It will not stick, right? So typically you need to remove the dust. We do that not with the HUS, because it's not needed anymore. If you drill a little bit deeper, the dust can stay in and we can set the anchor.
And maybe as you're preparing, there's one question about the exposure of the anchors in outdoor conditions. So Kilian, as you are the expert on the anchors, what does that mean, right? We had rainy days the last couple of days here in Ticino. Is there any harm to the anchors?
No, not at all. So we use stainless anchors that can stay in there for 50 years, some even for way more years. They cover a temperature range that goes from -40 to +120 degrees. They can withstand rain, sun, everything. So there's no need to worry even in the long term when the anchors are installed.
Yeah.
It's good to know. Yeah, it's good to know.
Very good. Good, Laura. So we are doing it here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here I have pre-drilled the hole, no need of cleaning as was explained by Kilian. And first step, very simple step, is to install the capsule. Yeah? So we just squeeze it and put it in the hole. So very simple. And then we will use the SIW 6 to drive the screw in.
And that's a perfectly set anchor.
Yes, so it's completely flush, and this is how we know that it's well installed.
One question we also received, and we said it on the way here, the anchors need to go out again as the route is dismantled. So Laura, what can we do if we need to dismantle the climbing route after the finals tomorrow?
So this is one of the benefits of this anchor compared to a chemical anchor, for example, that cannot be removed. Here we can remove it, even though we inserted a chemical anchor inside it. So I will show it. And done.
And that's it. So now you can remove whatever was fastened with the anchor. And that's a very fast process, right? And it's quite easy because you just need to use electric tools, so you can do that all day long. And by removing these steps of cleaning, hammering, and so on, how much faster are we with our SafeSet system, Laura?
We can say, so it depends on the experience of the installers, of course. But without a SafeSet system, we can save 25%, even up to 2 times, 4 times time over the installation.
Wow, that's very cool. But there's more, right? There was a second anchor type used to build the climbing route. So let's give a look to this one as well. Which type is it, Laura?
So, quick note about I'm changing the battery seamlessly because it's the same battery platform. So it's quite a nice advantage of the Nuron platform. The anchor I will show is this one. That is the HST3R that has been used last year and a bit was used also this year. It's an expansion anchor. Typically to install it, what you would have to do is on a very traditional way. So without the SafeSet system, you would drill the hole, clean a bit with just pump air the dust out of the hole. And then you would put the anchor in, hammer it, which is requiring quite a lot of effort. And to make sure it's activated, you would have to use a torque wrench so that then you can apply the torque that is necessary for the expansion.
And now imagine again, you're the route setter hanging in the air. I saw the guys, because they were updating the route today, they are fully packed with tools, equipment, carabiners, and a lot of stuff. And then an anchor is quite another pretty heavy tool you would need to carry if you want to hammer it in, that you need to put on your belt.
And since Lauren is preparing again, if you have any questions, just post it in the chat and we are also happy to answer all those questions.
Good, so we moved the hammering step by which feature, Laura?
So removing this hammering step with this setting tool here that is on the T6, you will see that I will require no strength at all, which is very nice after a long day. That I don't need to hammer in the anchor for the demo. So I will just put the anchor in and
that's it? Not yet. I mean, an important factor on these kind of anchors is to apply the right torque. With the screw we saw before, no torque is needed. As soon as it's flush, it's set perfectly. But here, for the working principle, we need to pre-tense the anchor. And traditionally, this is done with a torque wrench, which is a pretty long tool. And it requires a lot of force to bring the right torque. But we also have something new here. And for Shauna, to ensure extra portion of safety, we have even a special feature in the torque wrench. So Laura, tell us how we do that.
so we have this AT module that is in between the battery and the tool. And we have inside it inserted all the data that is related to the anchors that are approved for the SafeSet system. This tool will help us to install safely the anchor without having always to use the torque wrench, in the sense that it will smartly be calculating when the anchor is properly activated and properly tensioned.
Cool, let's go.
So let's try it.
We need to put the right diameter, of course.
Correct.
And now you see it blinking red. So what does that mean? It's Hilti red, but what does that mean for the anchor installation?
Yeah. So here it means I didn't install it properly. So if I leave it here and that I go away, then the anchor is not properly activated. So this is not what we want for a climbing competition. Yeah?
We also don't want it to have on a job site, right? You just don't want it, but the tool immediately tells you that.
So here it gives a little light that is not the right light, so you see it blinking. So what I will do is just getting up. Here. This is the green light we want to see to have security on the fact that it's properly installed.
And you see sometimes it's not working on first shot, can be, right? It's even all concrete here, tough conditions. However, you always get immediate feedback on your installation and you can repeat until you finally get the green light that confirms that it's properly installed.
Correct.
Thanks, Laura. So, clearance.
Good. If there are any more questions, yeah, I think that's now the chance to ask them. I think we saw now the demos, right? I think we will probably go over just to have a final look. We're getting to the end of the day, right? So you also see the sun is setting just in a few minutes. I think it was a very impressive event here. Thanks also, Shauna, for joining us. Yeah. As you mentioned before, tomorrow is the finals. I think it's really worthwhile to stop by, or also, of course, for the colleagues in GB, at least tune in on Red Bull TV. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's really fascinating to see how it works, and actually incredibly reassuring to know that there are so many levels of security, and that when it doesn't go smoothly or go to plan, that there is that very obvious kind of warning sign, and then seeing that green light and that tick come up, you know, you just know that there's so much effort and time gone into really ensuring that the safety is as high as it can possibly be, because yeah, you know, we need it up there.
Definitely. So, thanks for joining us. Well, a pleasure. Thank you for watching. Tune in tomorrow for the finals. And any more questions or comments, post in the chats. We can then pick them up and answer afterwards. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the view.